Hi, this is Books with Brushu, and I'm Jordan. I like to drink coffee and read books. Thank you for tuning into my best books of 2025 and also some reading stats for me for the year. So I read some really good books this year, read some really good series, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about them. So grab a drink. I've got my water here. And let's dive into my best books of 2025. So these are in no particular order. They are pretty much just in the order that I read them throughout the year. I went through my Fable and went from January to December to see which books that I had rated 5 stars or in the high 4-star range. Also, my sweatshirt today is a little indicative of some of my favorite books. It says Property of the High Reeve, and it's got some origami cranes on there. If you know, you know. It actually happens to be the first book that I'm going to talk about today. And that would be Manacled by Sen-Lin Yu. So this is the fanfic version that is directly based off of Harry Potter and The Handmaid's Tale, Draco and Hermione fanfic. This one is no longer available because, if you don't know, this book by Sen-Lin Yu was picked up to be traditionally published, and so obviously she had to change a lot of things around so that it wasn't directly based off of Harry Potter or Handmaid's Tale. However, I did read Manacled at the beginning of the year last year, and it was my first 5-star read. This book, along with Alchemized, they are dark, gritty, fantasy books with a romance subplot. The romance isn't the main story in the book. Their relationship is a main part of the book, but it's not necessarily a feel-good romance. It's dark, it's devastating, it's painful, it's addictive. I absolutely loved this book. I loved it so much. Like, I still think about it today, and I read it, I think, in March of 2025, and I still think about it all the time. It's such an amazing book. If you already have it, go ahead and read it. You can't get your hands on it anymore, unfortunately. However, Alchemized is just as good. So really enjoyed this fanfic, one of my absolute favorites, and that happened to be my first 5-star read of the year. Then I picked up Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I know some people really dislike this series. To me personally, I love it. I just do. I love a good romantasy. I love a book about dragons. I like the characters. Now, characters aren't meant to be perfect. They're meant to have flaws just like people, just like regular people do. And yeah, sometimes the main characters are annoying. Yeah, sometimes they don't communicate like they should. It's kind of like real world situations a little bit. I really enjoyed this book. I did not love it as much as Fourth Wing, but I still enjoyed it. I like this story. I like the progression. I want to know what's going on. I'm intrigued. I like these characters. I just like this series. I just do. So I gave Onyx Storm 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend if you love books about dragons and romantasy. This is another one of my best books of the year. Now, some of these I've just kind of lumped into series because I really enjoyed the entire series as a whole. And that is true for the entire Inheritance cycle by Christopher Paolini. I read books 2 through 5 this year. So that would be Eldest, Brisingr, Inheritance, and Murtagh. Most of the series was a reread for me. I read these books growing up and absolutely loved them. So it is no surprise that this series is on my best books of 2025 list because I have loved it for years and years and years. So finally got to do a reread of the first 4 books and then read Murtagh for the first time. This time through my reread, I decided to listen to all the audiobooks because I love the narrator and the voices that he does for all the characters. So I knew going in that I wanted to do a reread via audio just because I love them so much. I love this world. I like the characters. I love the dragons. I also liked hearing more about Murtagh. Having to listen to what Murtagh went through growing up was devastating. It was really upsetting. Like, how could someone treat another person so badly? It was just awful. But good knowledge to know, just furthers the story. I think there will be at least one more Murtagh book based off of how it ended. So that's exciting. But I gave most of the books between a 4.25 and a 4.5, I believe. So really good series, highly recommend. Another book that I loved. I listened to the audiobook, and this is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This book was really popular when it came out. I didn't think that I would like it as much as I did, honestly. I really loved Lessons in Chemistry. I loved the female main character, Elizabeth Zott. She was very smart, very bright. She wasn't only like book smart, but she was just practical. Coming from a scientific background, I'm a scientist, so I loved hearing about her train of thought and how she thought differently about things and how she made eating healthy, basically broke it down into the individual elements that your body needs. And cooking food to support your body, which I think is an amazing message, especially in the 60s where a lot of processed food, quick, simple meals, stuff like that started to be really introduced and used on the regular. I just loved the premise of this story. I enjoyed the audiobook. I thought the narrator was very good. Just kind of an enlightening experience, I think. I decided to put this book on the list because I still think about it even now. Just really enjoyed the story. And I would definitely, in a couple of years, I would definitely want to reread this book. That's how much I enjoyed it. At the time, I ended up giving Lessons in Chemistry 4.25 stars. So still a really good rating. I just really liked it. I really liked it. Then we're gonna go into a duology, and that would be The Secrets of the Nile duology by Isabel Ibanez. And the first book is What the River Knows. The second book is Where the Library Hides. And I thoroughly enjoyed this duology. I liked the main characters. Now, these are YA books. You have to remember that the female main character is still a teenager. She's very young. So she makes some dumb decisions and she trusts people that she shouldn't. However, if your whole life you've always trusted the adults around you, how would you know any better to not trust someone and to know that someone is lying to you? Those are things that you have to learn through experience. Through this experience, she's learning to not always trust people, even people who are her relatives, people that she loves and are supposed to love her, stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes it's frustrating and she makes dumb decisions, but she's also learning. So I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the unique magic system in this world that the authors created. It's different than really anything that I've read before. I really enjoy the author's writing. I just thoroughly enjoyed these books, read them really quickly. Highly recommend. Obviously, since they're on my list, I should stop saying highly recommend because obviously I do. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and I think I gave the second book around that same rating as well. The next book on the list is a new release from 2025. That is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the 5th and most recent installment in the Hunger Games series, and many people read this book when it came out. In typical Hunger Games style, it was devastating. It was heartbreaking. It was shocking. Even though at this point we should know that Snow is going to do something fucked up, but just the level of manipulation and just purposefully hurting someone and ruining their life. This book was devastating. It was a lot, but I enjoyed the story. I loved hearing about Haymitch. Finally learning why Haymitch is so depressed and an alcoholic and so bitter. Obviously it makes sense because Snow is a dick. Haymitch went through a lot. It also really helped fill in some of the blanks from the main trilogy of the people that were involved in the main trilogy. It helped fill in some of the blanks, and I really enjoyed that. And I think doing a reread with all of the books would help even more because I haven't read the original trilogy in over 10 years. So anyway, I gave Sunrise on the Reaping 4.75 stars. The next two series, actually, I'm going to talk about in conjunction. So I started a reread of the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and also read in conjunction with that the Flesh and Fire series. So these are two series that are interconnected. One is a kind of a prequel series, which is the Flesh and Fire series, and then you have Blood and Ash. And you have characters from both of these worlds that intersect in the most recent book that came out, which is Primal of Blood and Bone. I absolutely love this series. So I knew that with book 6 coming out at the end of 2025, I knew that I wanted to do a reread because there were things that I didn't remember from the original trilogy or from the original series. And I knew that I wanted to also read this series, the Flesh and Fire series. And I highly, highly recommend reading both series in conjunction with each other. So the author suggests reading Blood and Ash, books 1 through 4, and then starting off with the Flesh and Fire series and reading book 1, which is Shadow in the Ember, and then kind of going back and forth. So editing Jordan here, so I misspoke. The reading order I will throw up on the screen because what I said was a little inaccurate. I know it sounds kind of confusing, but literally all you have to do is Google the reading order for the series. I love this series. I love this world. I love the characters. I especially loved the Flesh and Fire series. I love Sarah Anito so much, like so much. Most of the books in this series were 5 stars. And most of the books in the Blood and Ash series were 4.5 stars. So love this series so much. Yes, they're big books, but I still love them and enjoy them. The world building is amazing. The world is complex. A lot of different creatures, a lot of different types of people, a lot of if this person creates this type of thing, it's this. And if this creature creates this type of thing, it's this. So it's a little bit confusing. You do have to pay attention. But that's why I wanted to do a reread before I jumped into this series. I love this series so much. And if you've been watching my videos throughout the year, you'll know that I was reading about 2 books a month from this series to try to get through all of them before Primal of Blood and Bone came out. So again, love these series. Jennifer L. Armentrout, please read them. I know it's a commitment. It's a big commitment, but please, it's so worth it. They're so worth it. Then on audio, I listened to The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. And this is a historical fiction book. It's about 3 women who, this is set during World War II. So all 3 women are very smart and very capable, and they get letters from the English government to show up to this place, and they don't know why they're going there or what's going on. So they get on a train and they show up at this place, and it's called Bletchley Park, which is where the Enigma code was broken during World War II. This is the story of these 3 women becoming friends, working at Bletchley Park, their day-to-day lives, but also there's an undercurrent of a mystery because we're getting a past timeline and a current timeline where one of the 3 women was wrongfully placed into an insane asylum because she found out some things that she wasn't supposed to. Throughout most of the book, we don't know which one of the 3 girls it is. So there's that mystery element because she knows she's not crazy. She knows what she found, and she's trying to work out exactly who the traitor is so that she can try to get out of there. So we're going back and forth of the girls working at Bletchley Park, trying to solve the Enigma, trying to break the Enigma code, and dealing with heartbreak and loss. Obviously, England was heavily bombed during the war. So they're dealing with all sorts of stuff, just trying to get through their day-to-day lives and having a semblance of a good time during the war. I love this book. I still think about it today. I love the characters. I love this author's writing. It's the first Kate Quinn book that I've read, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. I gave The Rose Code 4.75 stars. If you watched my last couple videos, you'll know how much I love this book. I friggin' adore it, and that is Warrior Princess Assassin by Brigid Kemmerer. This is the first book of the Braided Fate series, and it just came out towards the end of the year. This is the beautiful Fairy Loot edition of this book. We are introduced to 3 main characters. We have Princess Jory, King Kai, and assassin Asher. Jory and Kai are betrothed because they're from two different kingdoms and they want to build an alliance. So Kai's country is going through a lot of turmoil. There are a lot of fires breaking out. We find out why in the story, and there's kind of like a unique magic system in here where Kai, he can control fire, which is why there's fire in his hand. But Kai can control fire, and Jory's father can control cold things. He can make the atmosphere cold, he can make it snow, he can make it rain, etc. Kai is wanting to use her father's ice magic to help his land, which is burning. Now, people think it's because of him, because he's an out of control king and he can't control his powers. We find out later that that's not true. Jory's kingdom wants Kai's protection from a third kingdom. So Jory's kingdom doesn't have the military that Kai does. So Kai is going to protect them from this other country who is trying to invade them. And in return, the father is supposed to help out with the fires that are showing up in Kai's country. Jory and Asher were friends growing up. So Asher's mother was Jory's mother's like lady in waiting, or like her closest like maid, helped her get dressed, whatever that's called. Jory's mom ended up being assassinated, and they blamed Asher's mom. They hung her or set her on fire. Anyway, she was sentenced to death, and Asher was banished from the castle and from like the capital city area. So Asher didn't know what to do, so he ended up going to like an assassin school and becoming an assassin. And every once in a while, he'll sneak back into the castle to see Jory. They've always been in love with each other since they were kids. So that relationship is still kind of there. And now that Jory is betrothed to Kai, she is now having to like fight through those feelings of being in love with Asher, but also she's very intrigued by Kai. She knows that she needs to make a good impression on him. They honestly hit it off right from the beginning when they first meet. Some things go down at the beginning before the marriage can happen. Asher and Jory do some stuff to Kai that isn't really necessary if they had just like talked to him and communicated with him. But anyway, it really pisses Kai off. However, in the end, he kind of understands why they did it. He gets to know them all better, and he takes all three of them to his kingdom, in the guise of Jory is going to come live with him in his kingdom just to get a feel for it, to see if they actually want to get married. A lot of betrayals happen, a lot of sneaky, underhanded things, especially with Jory's brother, who is the advisor to the king. And he is actually, Jory's brother is the one who's been negotiating the marriage contract, etc. So there's a lot of tricky things that are happening. It's not a love triangle. It ends up being like a polyamorous relationship, but I really enjoyed this book so much. I gave it 5 stars. I can't wait for the next one, and I really, really, really wanted to come out soon. It's supposed to be out in, I think, October. You know, if it comes out earlier, that would be real cool. So anyways, love this book. Okay, Jordan, you got to pick it up a little bit. Then I listened to Mate by Ali Hazelwood. And I love this so much that I had to go pick up a physical copy of it because I listened to the audiobook. And I decided to go with the Target version because I liked the artwork in this one the best. This book is the second book in the Bride series by Ali Hazelwood. And in this book, we get to follow Misery. Misery is the vampire. She's the main female character in book 1. We get to follow her best friend, Serena, around. And Serena is a hybrid. She is a werewolf-human hybrid, and she is the first of her kind. She makes it very public that she's the first of her kind and goes on to a news show that was broadcast all over the United States. Now she kind of has a price on her head because she has let the world know that humans and werewolves can coexist and get along with each other and procreate, and everything will be fine. Well, everything will supposedly be fine. So Serena finds out that she is supposedly dying. She has these weird symptoms, so she goes to a werewolf doctor, and he basically tells her, you're dying, you only have X amount of time to live. she's devastated by this. She goes to live with her mate, who we find out that Cohen, who is the leader, the alpha of the Northwest Pack, is her mate. But he tells Serena that the only part of him that matters doesn't care about her. She might be his mate, but like, it doesn't matter. Obviously, because she thinks she's dying and her outing herself in front of the whole country, she's got a price on her head. She leaves Misery and that pack to come to the Northwest Pack and live alone in a cabin, just trying to deal with her symptoms of dying. Well, some things happen. Her and Cohen, they go through ups and downs, and they are dealing with personal problems and also the fact that they're mates and they're actually very attracted to each other. Cohen has to come and rescue Serena from a vampire trying to kill her, and from then on he's like, I'm not letting you out of my sight because somebody's gonna murder you. Forced Proximity, yes please. This book was so good. I gave it 4.75 stars. I loved the first book, I loved the second book, so I love a paranormal romance. Then I finally got to read Eldritch by Carrie Lake, which is the second book in the Eating Wood series. The first book is Anathema, and I read that last year when it came out. I have been impatiently waiting to read Eldritch. It did not disappoint. I absolutely loved it. A lot of stuff goes down in this book. Now, the first half is a little bit slow, and I feel like some of that probably could have been cut out. However, the last half of the book, especially the last part of it, a lot of shit goes down. Like, so much. And I cannot wait for the next book to come out because I need to know what happens. I need to know what happens. We've got Maveth and Zavander. We've got Kaz and Revisio, and we are introduced to some new characters, and stuff is just going down, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Now, this is a dark gothic romantasy. The first book might not even be considered romantasy. It might be more just like dark fantasy or dark fantasy romance, because romance is a very small part of it. Highly recommend the series. I love Carrie Lake's writing. I love these characters. There is also a unique magic system in this book that I like. It's based off of glyphs, and you have to learn the glyph, and then it's like burned into your skin, and then you can use that glyph, but you still also have to develop and learn how to use it properly, or more efficiently is the better word for that. But I gave Eldritch 4.5 stars. Then in December, I read Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. Now, I love all of B.K. Borison's books. I read this book in a reading vlog, so I will link my Christmas reading vlog in the description down below so you can check that out if you want to see all 6 of the Christmas books that I read in December, which it was a lot. But I loved Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. This is based off of kind of loosely A Christmas Carol, and Nolan is the ghost of Christmas past, and he shows up because Harriet is supposedly a bad person. He has to show her scenes from her past so that she can repent and become a better person. Well, that's not exactly what happens. There are some other things going on here that affect both Nolan and Harriet, and I loved this book. It was heartbreaking at the end. I cried a lot. And to the very last page, you didn't know if the characters were going to end up together or not. It was devastating, but so good. I love this author's writing. I've read all of B.K. Borison's books and absolutely loved them. This was not a typical Christmas romance. This was angsty, and there was more of a plot to it. It wasn't just a normal romance where you know they're going to get together in the end. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Now we are on to the last book on this list, and I finished this book. Technically, I finished this book in January. However, I started it in December. It's a really, really big book, so I'm just going to include it in my favorite books of 2025 because I read 75% of it in December. And that book is Alchemized by Sen-Lin Yu. So what a way to finish off 2025 / start 2026 with reading one of the most devastating, heart-wrenching books that there is. I've already talked about Manacled. Alchemized is very similar. It has the same premise. However, in this version of the book, the characters are necromancers. The bad people in this war are necromancers. And then you have the good people who oppose necromancy and bringing people back from the dead. You have Cain Farron, and then you have Helena Marino. Cain Farron is the High Reeve. He is on the dark side. He is an undead because Moros, who is the High Necromancer, has brought Cain back from the dead and has created an army of undead and also necrothralls, which are people who have died, and they bring them back to life. They're basically puppets, and the undead person who brings them back alive controls these necrothralls. And so Moros has created an army of these undead beings. And then you have Luke Holdfast, who is the leader of the resistance, and Helena is a healer in the resistance. Cain decides that he wants to be a spy for the resistance, and Helena is his contact, and they trade information back and forth. And Helena's whole point is to seduce Cain and make him fall for her so that they can use him even more in this war to win. And so it's about the war, developing this relationship through all this turmoil and all of the bad things that are happening in this world, and them loving each other so much that they don't care about themselves anymore. They care about the other person so much that they will willingly sacrifice themselves and do whatever it takes to protect the other person. Both of them do this. It's so heart-wrenching. I absolutely love this book. There were times where I had to put it down because I was just feeling way too much. It was too much, and I just needed a break, but it was so good, y'all. This book was so good, and it's 1,000 pages, so it's long. Manacled is also 1,000 pages, but y'all, I'm telling you, it's worth it. These books are so worth it. They're so good. I highly recommend you picking up this book. This was obviously a 5-star for me. Like, as soon as I finished this book, I actually texted my sister and was like, I've just finished and I already want to start reading it again. Like, that's how much I love this book. It was so amazing. So absolutely heartbreaking, devastating, but so amazing. Okay, so those are all of my favorite books of 2025. So let's go ahead and take a break before I get into the stats. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch a bunch of reading vlogs. I do at least one reading vlog a month. Usually they're seasonally based, so I am currently working on a winter reading vlog, which will be out next week. I like to sit and talk about books, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my videos. I'm going to take a sip of water and we will be back. Okay, now let's get into all of my reading stats for the year of 2025. I far surpassed my reading goal for 2025. So my goal was to read 71 books, which I always base my goal off of the previous years and I add 1 to it. So for 2025, it was 71 books, and I ended up reading 101 books this year. That is so many for me. That is the most I have ever read in a year. So I am super proud of myself. I made reading a priority this year and I definitely succeeded. That ended up being 142% of my reading goal. The total number of pages I read for the entire year is a lot for me. So the total number of pages I read in 2025 was 43,670. Over 101 books. That works out to an average book length of 428 pages per book. Average book was 428 pages. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. My average rating for all 101 books was 3.9 stars. That's pretty good. That is pretty darn good. If I feel like a book is going to be 2 stars or below, I typically will DNF that book. The only reason that I would continue reading it is if it's part of some type of reading challenge or something like that. Every year I participate in Magical Readathon. There is a spring equinox semester, an autumn equinox semester, and also a year-long read-along. So if the book I'm reading is for one of those, I have to finish it. Otherwise, a DNF doesn't count and I have to read a different book for the prompt. So normally if I pick it for that prompt, I will try to read it all the way through, even though I don't love it. If I think a book is gonna be 2 stars and below, I ended up just DNFing it because why am I wasting my time? If I'm not gonna love it or at least enjoy it, then why read it? I believe that is what attributes to such a high average rating for the entire year, because I don't have a lot of low rated books because I just end up not finishing them. If I read 50% or less of the book, I don't count it towards the books that I've read because I've read less than half of it. So then it doesn't even have a rating. Long explanation for that. My top genre, according to Fable, is romance. Now, Fable counts a book as more than one genre. Let's say, for instance, Born of Blood and Ash. This is a romantasy, so it's fantasy and romance. Fable will count it as both. It will count it in the fantasy genre category, and it will also count it as a romance. So obviously, all of the romances I read count as romance, and all of the romantasy I read count as romance. So duh, my most popular or most read genre is going to be romance, because most of the fantasy books that I read will also count in that category. Would I say that my most popular genre is just plain romance? No, I wouldn't. I read way more fantasy books than I do solely romance books. However, the way Fable categorizes books, it doesn't have a romantasy category or a fantasy romance category, so it counts it in both genres. There's a little bit of a caveat to that statistic. My most read author, which should not be a surprise to you if you've seen several of my videos, would be Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read 12 of her books this year. I read the entire Blood and Ash series and the entire Flesh and Fire series, equal to 12 books. One of them is a super short novella short story. She was my most read author this year because I read 2 of her series. The shortest book that I read this year, or last year, sorry. It is January, but I keep saying this year. Okay. The shortest book that I read last year was Cupcakes and Kisses by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a Blood and Ash short story that takes place right after A War of Two Queens. So it is book 4.1. I think it's a free short story that you can get on her website. I think it's like 20 pages long or something. Takes you absolutely no time to read, but you do get a little bit of information that is intriguing. It adds a little bit something to the short story since it's actually providing you a little bit of insight into the series. So that was the shortest book that I read. The longest book that I read in 2025 was A Breath of Snow and Ashes by Diana Gabaldon. This is Outlander book number 6. It was over 1,500 pages long, something like that. Crazy long. These books are all super long, but that was the longest book that I read in 2025. I love the Outlander series. Some of the books are a little meandering and a little long and, have information that's just unnecessary. However, I love the series. I love the show. So that was the longest book that I read. Book that I read that was the most shelved on Goodreads. So however Goodreads calculates this, but the book one of the books that I read that was the most shelved on Goodreads was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. So not only did I love the book, but a lot of other people loved the book and put it on their shelves on Goodreads. The least shelved book that I read was Kes by Tijan. This is a short novella in her Fallen Crest universe. It doesn't really add a lot to the plot of the universe, but I got the audiobook for free from the author. She was doing a giveaway. So that just happened to be the least shelved book that I read in 2025. The highest rated book out of all of the ratings on Goodreads that I read was Manacled. Not only did I rate it 5 stars, but a lot of other people rated it really, really highly. So Manacled was the highest rated book on Goodreads that I read in 2025. The meat, the thing that every reader, especially fantasy reader, is trying to accomplish are finishing series. Because most of the fantasy books, romantasy books, are all in series. The number of series that I started in 2025. Now, this number drastically increased towards the end of the year because I was doing a bunch of seasonal reading vlogs and starting a bunch of new series because I didn't have any fall, Halloween, Christmas, winter books series that I was in the middle of. So I basically started them all this year. Last week, I put out the video of all of the series that I read in the second half of the year. All of the series that I started, continued, finished from July to December 2025, broken down. That video was out last week, so I will link that one down below. I will also link below the series video from January through June. So those again are all of the book series that I started, continued, and finished from January to June 2025. So I will put both of those videos in the description below. So the total number of series that I started in 2025 is 22. I started 22 series in the year of 2025. That's a lot. That is a lot. The number of series that I finished last year, totally, completely finished, was 14. So I finished 14 series last year. Started 22, finished 14. Yes, that's a deficit. Yes, that is a deficit. It is always one of my reading goals to finish series that I've started, or at least continue the series that I've started. I have gotten better at it. I've been really trying hard to not start a bunch of new series. But again, with having this YouTube channel, being on BookTube, having a spinner wheel TBR that gets to pick the books that I read for the month, sometimes it's hard not to start a new series. With all of the seasonal reading vlogs that I've been doing, again, it's hard not to start new series. So that just is what it is. However, on my 2026 TBR, a lot of the series that I'm in the middle of are on that list. So hopefully I will finish a lot of series in 2026 and hopefully not start too many, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable that I'll start a new series. Shoot, I'm gonna start a new series next month with a new challenge that I'm doing, which that video is coming out on Tuesday. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see that video, which is a new challenge that I'm gonna be doing in 2026, and we're gonna be talking about it. Stay tuned for that video, which is coming out next week. That wraps up my best books of 2025. This video wraps up all of my 2025 stats, all of my beginning of the year, end of the year videos that I will be doing. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have made it this long, please put the book stack emoji down below in the comments. I really hope that you stick around and watch more of my videos because I definitely love making them and love talking about books. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.